What's going on YouTube? So if you've been following the channel during the last year, you might have seen one of the 8 videos we made on this all-new Honda CR-V.
And guess what? It's time for another one because Honda is making some changes to the CR-V for 2024, including this new Sport L trim level.
So with more options than ever before, is this the compact crossover to beat? Let's go ahead and find out. So like always, let's go ahead and start out under the hood. So with this new generation of CR-V, they've gone to a new powertrain arrangement. You've got 2 choices. You have a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. That's going to be on the LX, EX, and EXL trim levels. And then all the other trim levels, those are going to come standard with the hybrid system. This is Honda's new 2-motor hybrid system. It's a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine with 2 electric motors for 204 horsepower, 247 pound-feet of torque.
Now for your transmissions, you have a CVT for the gas models and ECVT for the hybrids. And as far as your fuel economy is concerned, it's either 40 or 37 miles a gallon combined for the hybrids. And one of the interesting things about this Sport L trim level is that you can actually get the front wheel drive equipped with this model. So that of course does give you that lower base price as well as the better fuel economy. So that's something certainly to consider.
Right, exactly, as opposed to that sport touring trim level. Now, of course, we're gonna take this out on the road, show you the performance, get things like our signature sound level reading. But first, let's close up the hood and see what is different in terms of the exterior with this Sport L trim level. Now, I already kind of explained to you guys the trim structure, and there's a lot of differences between the models that you choose based on if you get the sport design theme or if you get the more traditional look. So with these models that start with sport, those are all going to come with this aggressive look. They're going to substitute out the traditional chrome design that you're going to get for a full gloss black finish. That does include this new Sport L trim, which as you can see, looks quite aggressive with all the gloss black elements. You've got this gloss black lower area as well, and it looks really good with the urban gray metallic paint color on today's model. Let's also talk about the headlights. So the new generation of CR-V is not really messing around here. You're going to get standard full LED headlights on all trim levels, regardless of which one you choose. You've got the daytime running light and turn signal indicator across the top here. Just be aware that you're not going to find fog lights on any model. Now, as you walk around to the rear design, there's really no way that you would know this as the Sport L trim level as opposed to the Sport trim level.
Yeah, that's because it just says Sport. It didn't have the L or anything back here, so until you get on the inside, you're not going to know. Now, as far as the overall design, they haven't changed that this year as you would expect, and let's check out our taillights. This is one of my favorite elements about this new generation CR-V. Let's see if all the elements are LED. So we have an LED brake light, LED reverse light. We do have an incandescent turn signal, but 2 out of 3 elements being LED, I really do like. Also, as far as the accenting, that's all LED as well. And to be honest with you guys, I think this does kind of look like a Volvo taillight. We've been driving one around for an entire week, and this looks very similar. Now, dropping down to the lower area, this is all going to be more aggressive because we have a sport trim level. So if you choose Sport, Sport L, or Sport Touring, you're going to have this more aggressive lower diffuser with the dual integrated trapezoidal exhaust outlets. I think this looks a lot better than the traditional LX, EX, and EXL. Now, as far as the tow rating is concerned, 1,500 pounds for gas models, 1,000 pounds for any of the hybrid models.
So for those of you guys who like steelies, you're in luck because you can get those on the LX version of the CR-V with hubcaps, of course. And then all the middle trim levels are going to come with 18-inch alloy wheels. If you get the sport variety, you're going to get the gloss black finish you see here. If you choose the Sport Touring model, that's going to upgrade you to 19-inch gloss black alloys instead. As we move up here to the mirrors, once again, you'll find the gloss black finish here with these Sport trim levels. You do have heating as standard equipment, blind spot monitoring on all but the base LX.
Now here at the side of the CR-V, you can tell that this is actually a pretty good sized SUV. It's coming in at 184.8 inches long, which is longer than the Toyota RAV4, and it's going to be on the longer end for this segment of vehicle. I do want to point out that we do have nice blacked out roof rails up top. Now, for those of you who took a few times to pass your driver's test, yes, we all know driving is difficult at times, you're going to be very happy because this Honda CR-V is including every one of your active safety features as standard equipment. That does include adaptive cruise control, and you even have a traffic jam assist function. But guys, that wraps up the 2024 CR-V on the outside. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
Now let's move on to the interior. First, we'll take a look at the key fob. This is the latest version of the Honda key fob. Nice, small, compact shape. You will have smart entry as well as remote start if you choose anything except for the base LX trim level. Getting inside, super easy. Just grab behind the handle. That's going to unlock the door. And then take a look inside the cabin. Of course, this is coming off of a full redesign last year, so you're not going to notice any substantial design changes. But we can talk a little bit about one of the major things that sets apart the Sport L from the standard Sport trim level, and that would be that the L stands for leather. So, the base model, as in the LX, EX, and Sport, those trims will come with cloth seating. Once you get to the EXL, Sport L, or Sport Touring, that's where you'll get the real leather. As you can see, nice look to it. You have the availability of black or gray. As far as the seats, they're going to be 10-way power adjusting with 2-way lumbar support across the lineup. And then again, those same 3 trim levels I was mentioning with leather seats will also come with 2-person memory. But let's go ahead and climb inside. There's a little bit of a animation on the gauge cluster when you first climb inside that says hybrid. And let's talk about the rest of the cabin material. So there's actually not a ton of differences really between any of the models in the lineup. So here with the Sport L, we're still going to have a nice leather padding here on the armrest with stitching detail. It's going to be soft touch all through here, and we have a faux carbon fiber trim. As we move to the upper dashboard, again, all soft touch plastic with a nice texture. We've got that single vent effect that Honda's been rolling out across the lineup, more of the faux carbon fiber trim. And then down here in our lower panels, these are going to be hard touch, but everything does fit together extremely solidly in that typical Honda way. Now to start it up, put your foot on the brake and press the button. Now, like always, let's move into a first-person perspective and take a closer look at the details. First off, we have our gauge cluster design. So this is the half digital and half analog setup. It's going to be standard on all trim levels of this new CR-V. And you have all these different pieces of information you can cycle between to adjust the design for this setup. And then as we pull back to the steering wheel, we do have that typical Honda design. If you have leather seats, you also have a nice leather wrapped steering wheel. But if you want steering wheel heating, you will have to choose only the top end Sport Touring. And by the way, a head-up display is not available. But let's talk about interior storage, along one of the very strongest elements of any CR-V, and that does continue for 2024 because we have a center console, which Honda says is the largest in the entire segment. And I believe it. It is absolutely huge. For reference, we brought along our typical big stack of coupons here. And look at that. I mean, absolutely no problem. Plenty of space to spare for all the latest coupons that you have. Up in front of that, we got a little storage cubby, 2 cup holders, then a nice large storage bin up here in the front. If you choose the EXL or above, you'll get a wireless phone charging pad as well, and you've got your traditional connections above that. Now, pulling back here to the shifter, traditional style shifter as well. Pull back to D for drive, of course. R is for reverse, and when you go into reverse, you're going to find a standard backup camera on all trim levels. If you get the EXL trim level or above, that's going to get you the front and rear parking sensors. But just be aware you're not going to get a 360 camera, even if you choose the fully loaded Sport Touring trim level. You will, however, have a standard electronic parking brake and brake hold function. Moving above to our climate controls, we continue to have the dual zone automatic setup on all models. Nice clicky feel to these buttons. You also have the standard 3-stage heated seats. And let's talk a bit about the audio system. So this is an area where you're going to see that the Sport L has an advantage over the traditional Sport. So there's 4 audio systems with the CR-V lineup. You have 2 additional speakers, bringing the total to 8 if you choose the Sport L over the standard version of the Sport, although the 12-speaker Bose sound system remains exclusive to the Sport Touring trim level. But let's give this 8-speaker setup a sample. Overall sound quality is actually quite good. I'm certainly thinking that if you're not a huge audiophile, you're not going to notice a big difference between this and that Bose sound system. Now, taking a look at the screens themselves, there aren't 4 options like with the sound system, but there are 2 options, and it's very important which trim level you choose based on what you want here. So, LX, EX, and Sport. Those are going to come standard with a 7-inch display. That model is going to have wired Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. If you choose the EXL trim level or above, that's going to get you this 9-inch display, and this one is going to come with wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So again, that's a big important thing to note if you're choosing between Sport and Sport L. You will get the upgraded display here with the Sport L. Checking out the mirror, you've got an auto dimming one without HomeLink universal remotes, standard on EXL and above. At the top, you have a sunroof. This is going to be included on the EX trim level, so all but the base model will come with a standard size sunroof. However, for 2024, Honda is still not offering a panoramic sunroof, even on the fully loaded trim.
Now, the CR-V was designed from the inside out, and one of the really cool things about this car that I want to talk about is the door here in the rear. As you can see, I think it opens at an actual 90-degree angle. If it's not 90, it's about 85 degrees, which of course is very useful if you're loading in car seats or whatnot. All the people who have families are certainly going to love and appreciate that feature. I'm not quite old enough for that just yet, but I know a lot of you guys in the comments are. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the space, because that's another area where you're really going to appreciate things in the CR-V. 41 inches of leg room, 38.2 inches of headroom. That makes this one of the largest offerings in the class. I believe it might actually be the largest offering in the class. It was already huge. This new generation makes it even bigger. Let's measure from the seat back to my knees. We're looking at about 8 inches of knee space. Certainly very good. My feet can also slide up underneath the seat to maximize comfort, but we're not done yet. We have 8-position recline, and we can go all the way back, which makes me very comfortable. I kind of want to take a nap right now. So certainly you're going to like that about the CR-V as well. Now, here in the center, we are going to have standard vents. We're also going to have 2 USB-C ports. Do keep in mind, though, no heated rear seats on any trim level of this new CR-V. I'm a little disappointed by that. I really wish that they had offered that, because the vast majority of rivals offer it. As far as the center armrest, we do have 2 cup holders inside. Let's turn to the door trim. The door trim is going to be different from the front. So we have a hard touch upper part where it's soft touch up in the front. Not too bad for a vehicle in this segment, though. Leather armrest portion, and then down the bottom we have a lot of bottle storage. Now, walking up to the CR-V's tailgate, we do have a power tailgate for this new Sport L trim level. It's also on the EXL trim level. If you go for the Sport or below, it's going to be manual, and if you choose the top-end Sport Touring, it's also going to add the hands-free ability. Now, in the cargo area, Honda knows that bigger is better, and I agree with them, because there is a ton of space back here, guys. Absolutely absurd. 39 cubic feet behind the second row seats, and if I reach up here to fold the seats down, we are looking at 76 cubic feet as a maximum in this CR-V. That is the biggest in the entire segment, guys. As you can see, it does fold 60-40 split, and if you need to haul things, the CR-V is really your choice in this segment of vehicle. Now, I did bring my measuring tape so I can measure from the back of the seat back all the way to the rear of the cargo area. We're looking at a solid 73 inches of space, which does mean that you can definitely fit some adult bicycles. The average length on those, fully assembled, is 69 inches. And for the hybrid model, you're not going to have a spare tire, so this actually doesn't even lift up. We have some LED lighting as well as a 12-volt outlet here on the side, but overall, a very practical cargo area in the CR-V. Oh, and it is worth noting, that the CR-V hybrid does not sacrifice any space over the traditional gas model. Well guys, we're behind the wheel of the 2024 Honda CR-V in the new Sport L trim level. We can't wait to show you a lot of different things in this test drive, as you can see on the screen right now, including getting our Confections signature sound level reading. But first, let's go ahead and start with the hard acceleration and see what this hybrid powertrain is all about.
And there we go, up to 60 miles per hour. So with this hybrid powertrain, they're obviously not making any changes to this for just the second model here. This was just fully redesigned. So that means we've got that all new 2-motor hybrid system. Like we're mentioning in the spec dump, the whole system works together, of course, as you'd expect, with 2 electric motors, a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine as well, for 204 horsepower, 247 pound-feet of torque. Those are good numbers for this class of vehicle. I think acceleration feels perfectly adequate. It's not going to be like, you know, super powerful or anything like that, but you really can get up to speed just fine with this model. This is more powerful than the regular gas one as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I haven't spent as much seat time as Drew has with this CR-V hybrid powertrain, but just sitting in here and comparing it to all the previous CR-Vs that we've driven, including the EXL trim level that has the 1.5, this is a big upgrade in my opinion when it comes to power and also fuel economy, which we'll talk about in just a second. As a matter of fact, the 1.5 turbo 4-cylinder is rated at 190 horsepower, 179 pound-feet of torque, whereas this 2-liter is 204 horsepower, 247 pound-feet of torque. So really big boost when it comes to the torque figure and more horsepower than the traditional gas model.
Yeah, so if you're wondering why is the hybrid standard on the sport trim levels, well, that pretty much is the reason why, because this is the more powerful version. So we're on a flatter surface there. It gives you a little bit of better perspective on the acceleration. Now you're probably also noticing as we went up to speed there that we were actually kind of going through some gears.
Yeah.
Because of the way that this hybrid is set up, you don't really have a traditional CVT, but Honda does call this an eCVT just because of the way that it performs. They also have a shift simulation programmed in, which gives you a little bit more of a traditional feel to kind of simulate in a way a traditional automatic transmission. I like the way that this operates even under more like casual acceleration. You don't have to like really stomp on it to get the simulation to take place, and it just kind of makes it, I think, sound, you know, less strained than some of the competition, which will just ride up there at the top of the RPMs the whole way to 60.
Yeah, and as far as how the power is routed to the ground, you do have standard front-wheel drive or optional all-wheel drive. That's kind of the big thing about the Sport L that really helps push down the price, is that you can actually get this in a front-wheel drive configuration, which does get you better fuel economy as well as push down that price, I think $1,500. And do keep in mind that the Sport Touring trim level is locked into all-wheel drive exclusively. But I do want to talk about your fuel economy because that's a big part of this hybrid system, of course. We're sitting at 40, 34, 37 miles a gallon combined if you choose all-wheel drive. If you choose the hybrid with front-wheel drive, we're sitting at 43, 36, 40 mpg combined. So it's 3 mpg if you choose all-wheel drive. That is going to reduce it down. So that would definitely be something to consider when you're making that decision if you want to spend the extra $1,500. It does also cost you a little bit at the pump more, but certainly the hybrids, regardless of which drivetrain configuration you choose, is going to be a lot more efficient than the 1.5 gas models, which are coming in at 30 and 29 miles a gallon combined. So pretty much close to 10 miles a gallon better for choosing the hybrid, and you're getting more power and torque. And what's our airball and slam dunk today, Drew?
All right, so slam dunk has got to be the overall practicality of this thing. I think that's the #1 reason why people buy CR-Vs. It's just massive space. I mean, absolutely enormous, really in all regards.
Yeah.
And Honda just really thinks a lot about how can I make this function the best for families.
Yeah. And as far as the airball is concerned, for 2024 they added a new trim level. I like this Sport L, but what I really wish they'd add is an elite trim level of this CR-V to throw in some of those missing features on the Sport Touring that we've complained about. We need vented seats. I want a panoramic moonroof on this vehicle, heated rear seats, 360 camera. People are looking for that in this segment, and the CR-V is not offering it. So that is something that I'd like to see them add. And it pretty much goes without saying, when it comes to this CR-V's ride quality, it is buttery smooth. Every CR-V ever made has really been a very smooth ride quality. That's going to continue for this. And since we do have the Sport L, it has the 18-inch wheels instead of the larger option. I think it even rides better than that fully loaded model. So certainly very impressive. But let's get our sound level reading now that we're going 55 miles an hour. 57 decibels even. Before we started slowing down there is what our sound level reading was sitting at. And what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to go to carconfections.com, which is our all-new website. And on our website, we have extensively posted all of our sound level readings for this segment, as well as every other segment of vehicle, of course, that we review things in, which is all of them.
Basically, of all time, it was quite the extensive project.
Yes, it took a while because we review a lot of cars on this channel, but we especially have done a lot in this compact SUV segment.
Yes.
So I'm going to compare and see how good that is to some of the rivals. And that puts it pretty much right in the middle of the pack when it comes to the sound level reading, and it's certainly a lot quieter than the Sport Touring that we tested out in California, but that has to do with the road differences here in Kentucky now that we're back home.
And by the way, the handoff between the battery and engine power is really, really smooth. They've done a great job with this. Before we wrap up here, I just want to mention one more thing. We don't really have any good corners to go around or anything, but I do want to mention that the CR-V remains having one of the better steering setups in the segment. We have a nice responsive setup. As you can see, you get that immediate reaction as soon as you turn off center, and the body control is pretty well maintained.
Yeah, and then the very last thing I want to talk about is your warranty. You're going to have Honda's signature warranty, 3-year, 36,000 mile basic, 5-year, 60,000 mile powertrain. Honda also recently added 2 years and 24,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. So that's definitely something that I like to see that Toyota was offering before. So now Honda has that as well. So what's the price going to be for 2024? Well, I'm happy to say Honda hasn't raised the price too much. It's about $1,000 or less on all of the trim levels. And one of the really attractive elements about the Sport L trim level is the price tag. So you heard me mention it at the very beginning in the spec dump. You can get the Sport L in front wheel drive configuration, which does lower that price down to about $3,000 less than the fully loaded Sport Touring. Now, if you choose all-wheel drive like what we have on today's example, that adds about $1,500 more bucks, so we're looking at $37,850 as a starting point, plus $1,325 destination. We're looking at a total of $39,630 as tested. And if you want to go for a fully loaded Sport Touring, it's going to be a little bit into the low $40,000 range. And guys, that's where we're going to leave off on this in-depth review of the 2024 Honda CR-V and its new Sport L trim level. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, I know a lot of you guys are going to be buying one of these over the next year, please pay us back by hitting that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you help give us access to vehicles like this where we can do exclusive first looks on new trim levels and on new vehicles and be invited to media drives. So by subscribing, you really help us out on this channel. If you're already a loyal fan and subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support because you do make this all possible. Anyway, we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.